Hello, my name is Jillian Tate and I'm the Clinical Manager of the Lifestyle Medicine Center. Today we are going to learn how to make a few of my favorite fall soups. We're going to do Chile Verde, but without pork. We're going to do potatoes, corn, and beans instead. And we're going to do a potato cauliflower soup and a corn chowder. So first we're going to go ahead and get our peppers prepped and put into the oven for our Chile Verde. So there's a few ways you can do this. You can just buy a 28-ounce jar of fire roasted green chilies and then pair that with a 16-ounce jar of a tomatillo sauce or like a green salsa. And that's the super quick way to do it. I went ahead and bought some green chilies and have my tomatillos and then 2 jalapenos. The ratio you want is 1 pound of tomatillos to 2 pounds of the peppers. These ones are the Hathch green chilies. I wanted to take advantage of the fact that you can still get those in the store right now. And then we are going to just cut these up and put them on our pan and throw them into the oven to broil. You can, depending on how hot you like them, you can stem them and take out the seeds and do all of that. I got mild ones and we like things spicy, so I'm just going to go ahead and put these in the oven whole. They've already been washed. And we're just going to rotate these. When you're broiling, you do want to make sure that you're paying very close attention because things can burn very quickly. So we're just going to rotate them. You don't need any kind of oil or anything like that. I've got my tomatillos. I am going to cut those in half. And then for just a reference, I actually did not buy enough. I did HEB curbside and you had to choose the number rather than the amount of pounds that you wanted. So I got 8 of the Hathch chilies and that was about half of what I needed. So I would get about 16 of those. And then I got about 8 of the tomatillos, and that was about 3/4 of what I needed. So I would get like 11 of those. So I'm going to put those skin side up on my baking sheet. I'm going to take my jalapenos and I am going to cut those in half and remove some of the seeds and stems just so it's not too spicy. If you've seen some of my previous cooking demonstrations, you know that I am all about doing things as easy and as quickly as possible. So I'm not too fancy whenever I do it. I just stick my knife in, I get out what I get out, and I leave what I don't. Okay, I'm going to stick these in the oven on the top rack. Okay, so while our peppers are roasting up in the oven, I'm going to go ahead and chop up my onion. I'm just going to do a dice. Really, it's going to be a rough chop, but it's going to be a little bit smaller. And I am going to be cooking the Chile Verde today in my Instant Pot. You could do a slow cooker, you could do the stove top, whatever appliance you want to use. So I have this set to saute right now. And we are going to brown our onions. And you don't need any oil in your pan or in your Instant Pot to cook up these onions. If you find that things are sticking a little bit, all you have to do is just toss in a splash of water or vegetable broth and it'll take care of it. So I'm just going to throw those in and let them cook up. I'm going to go ahead and add a tablespoon of oregano. Let's do the rest of that. About a tablespoon of smoked paprika. I would normally add in about a a tablespoon of coriander, but I'm out of that, so I'm just gonna do 2 tablespoons of cumin. Just gonna toss that around. This is also the time in most recipes where you would add salt, but once again, that's not necessary. You can add as many spices as you want to enhance the flavor. If you are working on weaning down from salt, I would suggest just making sure that you're using low sodium broths and things and adding just a little bit of salt, maybe half the amount you would normally use. But you'll find that as you start cutting out salt, that your taste buds will start to change and it's gonna be way too much for your taste buds. So while that is going, I am going to go ahead and chop up 2 potatoes. I'm gonna leave the skin on just so that we get the maximum amount of nutrients from them. I'm just gonna do a dice on these as well. And you can use sweet potatoes if you'd like. I actually made some last weekend and used sweet potatoes, and that was good. I prefer less sweet with my savory, if that makes any sense. So I do prefer the white potatoes in this, but either way is fine. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and check my peppers. So this is what the skin is going to look like when it starts to blacken. And so I'm just going to give my peppers a turn. Okay, so while our onions are browning up and our peppers are finishing up roasting, I'm going to go ahead and start on the corn chowder. So here I am taking 4 pieces of celery. And I'm just going to dice those up. I'm also going to dice up 1 onion. And I'm supposed to dice up a red pepper, but it looks like I didn't get it with my grocery order, so I'm just going to improvise, and we're going to add green chilies to this as well. I'm actually normally not a recipe follower. I try to pick recipes for these videos just so that it's easier for you guys to replicate. And then some of them I modify from several different recipes and then I put them together for you guys. So I'm not too thrown off by the fact that I don't have something for the recipe. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on my pot. I just have this ceramic Dutch oven and I'm going to heat that up to medium-high heat. Once again, we do not need oil to saute these vegetables. If you find that you need a little bit of liquid in the pan, you can use water or vegetable broth. I'm going to add a little bit of water to the onions. And I'm also going to add 4 tablespoons of garlic. I'm going to check on the peppers again. Okay, just a couple more minutes and those are going to be done. So I'm going to get back to dicing my onion. Okay, and I'm going to throw this into my hot pan. I'm also going to add the can of green chilies right now as well. And I'm just going to saute all of this until it's soft. My onions for the chili are nice and soft, so I'm going to go ahead and add a cup of vegetable broth. Make sure you're using low sodium. And I'm just going to stir that so that I get all of the brown bits off of the bottom of the pan. And I'm just going to continue to let that simmer. And I'm going to go ahead and take my peppers out of the oven. And I'm going to set them over here to cool. And I don't like to have to do a million dishes, so I'm going to use this same spatula and I'm going to stir my vegetables over here. And so since I'm doing several recipes today, it seems kind of chaotic, but if you're just cooking one thing, it's really not that bad. That's what I love about cooking soups or stews, because for the most part, you can do all of it in one pot, and it's easy cleanup. You can put it in the slow cooker, go to work, and come home and have dinner ready. Okay, and then I'm gonna need a potato for the corn chowder, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut that up now as well. I'm just going to get one medium to small potato. I'm going to wash that off. And once again, I'm going to leave the skin on. Okay, I'm just going to stir both of my pots really quick. And I'm going to go ahead and throw my potatoes into the green chili. Corn as well. You can use an ear of corn, frozen corn. I had some extra cane corn in my pantry, so I'm just going to toss in about half a can of that. Stir it around. Okay, and we're going to we're working on making our green chili base now. Okay, so I'm going to get about half a cup of cilantro and throw it into my blender. You can chop it and measure it if you like, but I'm just going to rinse it off and I'm going to tear it and throw it into my blender because it saves time and dishes. You can do the stem and all because it's all just going to get blended up. So I'm just going to pinch off about this much and throw it in. And now we are going to get our peppers and take off some of the skins. Ideally, you want to let them cool a little bit longer than this, but for time's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and try to do it now. And you don't have to get all of the skin off either, so don't stress about that. So I'm just going to get a fork and kind of start working my way. The skin comes right off there. And I'm just going to throw these peppers into my blender. The tomatillos, unless they're really black, I don't really worry too much about taking the skin off of those. I'm going to add a splash of water to my vegetables over here that are cooking for the corn chowder. And then I'm going to add in that potato as well. Okay, so now I'm going to de-skin my chilies. It comes off so easily. And I'm just going to remove the stem and throw it in. Pour this mixture into my Instant Pot. Okay, and I'm just going to give it a stir, and then I'm going to place the lid on. add the beans. So I have a can of just white beans here, and I'm going to drain and rinse these and just add them into the pot. You can use any kind of bean. You can do black beans, red kidney beans. These are white kidney beans. You can leave beans out altogether. You can throw in carrots and different other kinds of vegetables. Zucchini would be really good in here as well. You can just really get creative and add whatever you want into it. That's what I love about soups and stews. I'm just going to pour these in. And since I was a little bit on the short side of my peppers, I'm going to add just a splash more of vegetable broth in. I'm going to give that another stir, make sure everything's nice and incorporated. And then I'm going to just put the lid on and use my stew setting on the Instant Pot. You can just do manual pressure if you'd like as well. I'm going to knock my time down to 20 minutes. Okay, now that I have that going in the Instant Pot, I'm going to take 3 tablespoons of whole wheat flour and add it to my pan of my vegetables and my potatoes. And I'm just going to mix that around so that I'm coating all of the potatoes. And this is going to help to thicken the soup. Okay, so while that's cooking up just a little bit, I am going to add 2 cups of vegetable broth and 1 cup of plant milk to my measuring cup. I'm going to be using unsweetened almond milk today. Just make sure that you don't have a vanilla flavored and you don't have sweetened, because that's not going to be very good. You can use any kind of plant milk you like. You can do soy milk, cashew milk, oat milk, almond milk, walnut milk, whatever you'd like. Just adding a cup of that. Now I'm going to come over and add it to my pot. And once again, I'm going to make sure that I'm stirring really well and scraping the bottom so I'm getting all of those brown bits and flavor off of the bottom of the pan. Okay, now I'm going to take about a teaspoon of parsley, celery salt, and smoked paprika and add it to my pot. I'm also going to do some ground black pepper as well. Okay, I'm going to give that a stir, and then I'm going to put the lid on and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. So just turn your heat down to low. And then you can just come back and stir that every once in a while just to make sure that nothing's burning up the bottom of the pan. Okay, so now I have a second pot on the stove, and I'm just heating it up at medium-high heat. And I am going to chop 4 pieces of celery. I'm going to throw that into my pot. And I am also going to dice 1 medium yellow onion. I'm going to add this to my pot as well. Okay, so I'm going to let that saute for about 5 minutes, and then I am going to add 4 cloves of garlic. I'm going to go ahead and check on the corn chowder. It's boiling a lot, so I'm going to turn that down to low. And then I went ahead and I chopped up 5 potatoes. I just did a rough chop. Some are small, some are big, but we're going to use those in just a second. And then we have about 1 minute left on our green chili. So we will let that pressure come down by itself. And so I paired these recipes together because they use a lot of similar ingredients. A lot of broth, plant milk, onions, potatoes, celery. So I can shop more in bulk and get things for cheaper and utilize everything and not waste it. So it's a good way to meal prep. Today's Sunday, so we have soups and stews for lunches all week. So that makes it really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and stir my onions and my celery back here. Okay, so my vegetables over there are getting nice and translucent, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my garlic. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and break down 1 head of cauliflower. Give that a quick wash. And the potatoes and the cauliflower are all going to go in at the same time, so just to keep my cutting board area more clean, I'll start putting some of these broken down pieces in there. I just am doing a rough chop. Okay, so now I'm going to add in 4 cups of vegetable broth to my pot over here. And I'm going to add in my cauliflower and my potatoes. I'm just going to give that a stir. And then I'm going to put the lid on and let it boil for about 20 minutes. I actually forgot to add some spices to my pot, so I am going to add a little bit of pepper, some red pepper flake, some smoked paprika, some parsley, and if I had some rosemary, I would add a little bit of that, but I actually just ran out. So I'm gonna give that another stir. Oops, sorry. I'm gonna give that another stir. And I'm gonna put my lid on. Okay, so now our soup, our corn chowder is done. The potatoes are nice and tender. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the corn. You can add 4 ears of corn, or you can add cans of corn. I'm gonna use frozen corn, just for the sake of ease. It equates to about 10 ounces of corn. So this is about a 16-ounce bag, so I'm not gonna quite use all of it. But I'm just gonna pour that directly into the pot. And you can measure to be exact if that's your style, but it's not mine, so I'm just going to dump it in. And then I'm going to stir that and cook it just until the corn isn't frozen anymore. Okay, so then I'm going to check on our potato cauliflower soup as well. It looks like we have a nice boil going on in here, so I'm just going to give it a stir. And I'm going to turn it up to high heat. Okay, so now that everything is done, I'm going to take an immersion blender and I'm just going to blend it a little bit. You don't want to do too much because you still want some chunks in there for texture. If you do not have an immersion blender, you can just take some out, put it in the blender, and then put it back in. Okay, and then you can just check the texture. The point of this is to make it creamier. The potatoes are going to give that a nice creamy base without having to use cream. So if you like it that chunky, you can keep it like that. If you want it a little bit more creamy and blended, you can keep going. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and put this in the bowl. You can garnish it with whatever you like. I'm going to add a little bit of cilantro. I'm going to top it with a little bit of nutritional yeast. That's going to give it a little bit of a cheesiness and a little bit more depth to the flavor. And I'm going to add some green onions. And there you go. You could add some avocado if you'd like. You can get creative with it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and release the pressure on my pressure cooker. And you can let this come down to pressure by itself, or you can release it. It doesn't really make any difference. I'm always in a hurry, so I like to just release it myself. I'm going to go ahead and check on the potatoes and the cauliflower over here. I went ahead and added in 4 tablespoons of nutritional yeast as well. I'm just going to stir that around. I think it's getting pretty close. Yeah, I think we can go ahead and start blending that up as well. So I'm going to turn off my heat. Okay, and then I'm going to blend this up. And we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to blend this a little bit more than I did the corn chowder though. Okay, so now whenever you're done, you can just go ahead and plate it. And like I said before, the texture is just going to depend on your preference. If you want your soup to be a little thinner, you can just add some extra vegetable broth in. At this point, you don't even have to cook it anymore. You can just thin it with that. And if you like it more pureed, you can keep going. If you like it chunkier like I do, you can stop. So I'm going to go ahead and get a bowl. And just ladle this in. And this is a thicker one, so like I said, if you like it thinner, just add a little bit more broth. I am going to top it with a little bit more nutritional yeast and some green onion. And there you go, your cauliflower potato soup. Now that my pressure has been released on my pressure cooker, I'm just going to take the lid off. I'm going to give it a stir. It's nice and thick. Mix everything around, and then I'm going to stick it in my bowl. And then I'm going to add some green onion and some cilantro. You could add some avocado, some salsa. You could air fry some corn tortillas and make some plant-based oil-free chips. And there you go. Thank you so much for joining us today and learning how to make some of my favorite fall soups and stews. If you have any questions for us, you can leave them in the comments below, or you can call us at 432-221-LIFE. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much.